Good morning. Let's do sports now on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. Now, today marks exactly 23 years since the country experienced one of the worst disasters in football. It was a day Hearts of Oak and Asante Kotoko faced off to entertain the crowd, but after 90 minutes, pain and agony were felt, with over 100 fans dead and several others injured. My colleague Victor Achutamaklo looks back at the event and assesses whether the recommendations to avoid another disaster have been effective or not.
Aja Tete, Osaiku 4. Try to look for Ismail. This should be the winner. This should be the winner. Ismail Ado. And Kumasi Asante Kotoko in all sorts of trouble.
Never again. That's the inscription you see on the statue erected at the entrance of the Accra Sports Stadium in memory of the 126 people who perished 23 years ago. The Sam Okudzeto Commission of Inquiry set out to lay the groundwork for that. And they did, with a number of what was initially thought to be seminal recommendations.
So the commission recommended, among other things, the prosecution of 6 police officers. But after trial, all the charges brought against them, including the charge of involuntary manslaughter, were dismissed after the prosecutor failed to establish beyond reasonable doubt that the conduct of these police officers was responsible for the death of the 127 people. There was also the establishment of the Stadium Disaster Fund, which the Commission recommended government putting 2 billion cedis at a time, which is now, in today's terms, 200,000 Ghana cedis in the first year of that particular fund. And that fund was to go into, among other things, taking care of the children of all of the victims of that particular May 9 disaster. And for those that didn't have children, there were 54 of them specifically. The Commission recommended the payment of a one-time ex gratia of 10 million, which in today's terms would be 1,000 Ghana cedis. And that money was to go to the parents or a legal representative.
One of the unintended legacies of the Commission's work is the fixture itself. I'm not sure who set out to enforce it, but over time, the idea of hosting a Hearts of Oak and Asante Kotoko match at night has become somewhat of a taboo. In 23 years, the only time the two teams have met in a late kickoff match was in 2022 when Hearts of Oak beat Asante Kotoko by 2-1 at the Accra Sports Stadium on 4th March. It was a President's Cup match on a Friday night.
Ball header down, opportunity, and that's it! Efia Banya gets the goal there for Accra Hearts of Oak. It has been happening, and finally thus.
I mean, between 2001 and 2024, a lot has changed with football all over the world. If you want your brand to compete, you have to look at the uniqueness of your brand. If your brand is in a position where in 2024 you are competing with so many eyeballs, and let's say if a game between Kotoko and Hearts can be played at, let's say, after 6 p.m. to get returns on that, why would you still want to be playing it, if you like, in the hot sun at 3 p.m., for example, on a Sunday afternoon with all the competing interests that come with a game these days?
That was Kwame Jumo-Ajimai, Communications Director at Premier League club Legon Cities. His views are shared by Dr. Godfred Akoto-Boafo, a football administrator who once consulted for Liberty Professionals while they were still in the league.
For the period that we were in, the committee's recommendations were not perfect, but some of them were legitimate, particularly with restoring fund safety at Kotoko and Hearts games. The impact has not been felt as much because we have not implemented that aspect in full, even immediately after that. The one that we held true to was the firm rule about not playing a Kotoko Hearts game at night, which, of course, in the era that we find ourselves, makes very little sense. Apart from that, we could have done better with the sporting side of the recommendations that were made.
23 years on, the recommendations and the disaster itself are still fresh in our memory. But just how much has changed? experienced journalist Jerome Ochre has his take.
I don't think a lot has changed. If anything at all has changed, it's mostly about what we do after the incidents have occurred, and not necessarily what we are doing to prevent or preempt those incidents from occurring. Most of the time, it's about hoping and praying. And we hope and pray that nothing happens. But if something happens, for me, reactions have always been what I would say is lip service.
There was one that impacted even generally how our stadiums would have been built going forward in terms of the number of exits that were supposed to be present at a stadium. Because I remember was that there was a game, I went to a game at then Robert Mensah Sports Stadium. It was a massive game. And if you will come from that part of the country, that stadium has only one gate.
Yeah.
At the time, and everybody was squeezing through that tiny gate. And this was 4 or 5 years after the recommendations on the kind of things that were supposed to be present at Category A games, basically, so to say, for fan safety, and also the training of policemen, the interaction between security services and fans. I think that those things have not really gone well.
Let's talk about the specifics then. Safety and security protocols, stadium architecture, the very things we swore to fix. How have we gone about fixing them?
Over the years, what we failed to do was we're just lifting solutions from elsewhere and seeing if we can also implement that. But in security, you have to always profile your. If you take 100% of hooligan acts or incidents or disturbances that we have had for the past 5 years, about 80 to 90% will be attack on match officials.
That was Julius Emuna, Safety and Security Officer at the Ghana Football Association, and once upon a time, the club licensing manager. So what has to give?
One very important thing that we have still not been able to achieve or still not been able to do as stakeholders, listed stakeholders, not just the GFA. Thankfully, the current Safety and Security Committee led by the chairman is trying to get that in place. It's arrests. And let's not forget that. It's arrests. People who are in football, spectators who are in football, have this notion that misconduct, hooligan acts, criminal acts at match venues cannot be settled at the law courts. That has to be drummed down to the people. 2 actions. There should be examples set. The police should be able to make arrests of people who attack physically officials, opposition players, and even spectators at match venues. When these arrests are done and people get to know that doing said acts can lead you before court.
I keep saying that if I walk on the streets of Accra and I hold a club in my hand or any object and go around striking people I disagree with, the police won't let me go beyond a kilometer. I will be arrested. But I can put up this same behavior at the stadium per what I have seen. And there's a high chance that I will still sleep comfortably at home the next night. And I think that is what is lacking in terms of dealing with the security situation at our venues. If we will have the police getting hold of the hooligans and using 1 or 2 of them to set an example by taking them to the law courts, prosecuting them, and making sure they get a conviction against them, and the whole public knowing that violence at the football venues is not anything to be countenanced, I think the degree to which we see these incidents would be reduced to the barest minimum.
Until then, we can only hope that the Ghana Football Association, its members, the sports ministry, the security agencies, football fans, and all stakeholders continue to do their bit in order to force the cultural reset we wish to see. For Joy Sports, Victor Achutamaklu.
And may it never happen again. To the Ghana Premier League, Hearts of Oak, they return to winning ways in style. The Phobias defeated Brecum Chelsea 3-0, ending their streak of back-to-back losses. The win comes as a big relief for the club as they are now 6 points clear of the relegation zone. Highlights for you.
Linda is trying to squeeze one for Issa Kuka. Shaibu makes a mistake. Here is Hamza. with a wealthy, glorious finish from Hamza Issa, this 12th of the season. And this is spectacular. Wonderful goal. The Phobians in the lead at the Golden City Park in Brecum. It's Chelsea 0, Hearts 1. Shaibu makes the mistake. Kuka is trying to find Linda, but Hamza is shooting with a left foot even before Linda makes the attempt. That can be pardoned. He slipped and fell, and Hamza took advantage after Issa Kuka's presence of mind. So spot on to find a teammate. Hamza is just swinging. And Ponsa gets back to Kosa. The Phobians on the move now. Linda stays onside. It's a big chance for the Phobians to make it 2-0. And Linda makes it 2-0 for Asamok at the Golden City Park in Brecum. Whenever their backs are against the wall, when you don't expect them to rise to the occasion, that is where the silence you. Asamok on the move to the second goal. Brilliant passing play. Linda all alone. He sees the goalkeeper making a move. He looks at the far corner and he makes it 2-0 for the Phobians. Linda, calmness, composure. He's lost possession to Amponsa, and Hamza stays onside. He's got Cisse. There's a chance. Can they get a 10? Here is Cisse. And it's 3-0 for Asamok. The job is done and complete. Cisse gets up the score sheet. And the Phobians, 3 goals up at the Golden City Park. Unbelievable. Brecum Chelsea are being cut to size. The Phobians are on a demolition exercise. 3-0. It was a good ball from Hamza. He took it really well. Not the kind of result Samuel Bodi was expecting. Cisse comes off the bench and he scores in what seemed to be a master stroke from Abubakar Ouattara.
Well, that's how we end the sports here on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. Thanks for watching.